This video is going to give a brief introduction to Fermi questions or Fermi problems, and then try to estimate, the number of steps a person takes in a lifetime. So first, Fermi questions or Fermi problems. It is something that asks for an approximate answer, not an exact answer. And very often, no one knows the correct answer to the problem. In approaching this, to get this number, a general principle is to break the problem down into many factors, make an educated guess for each factor. Hopefully, some of your guesses will be high and others will be low. They'll kind of balance out and you'll get a good estimate, a reasonably true estimate for this unknown number. There is more information on Fermi questions or Fermi problems at Wikipedia, so please take advantage of that and look up some other cases and do your own Fermi questions. So we want to estimate here in this video the number of walking steps you'll take in a lifetime. I'm only doing walking. I want to make two estimates. Let's see what happens when I make two estimates. Do they agree? And I am using a calculator, so there'll be calculations, but it's not using an exact formula. All right, number of steps you take in a lifetime. My first method is to break this problem into two parts. How many steps does the average person take in a year? And then how many years do they walk? Well, for the number of years that a person spends walking, I'm going to reduce their lifetime by 3 years. This is my estimate. I subtract 3 due to not walking much from age 0 to 1 year. And then as a person is older, perhaps not walking as much for the last 4 years, maybe only walking 50%, so that equates to 2 years of not walking. And so if a person's average lifetime is 80 years, I subtract 3 from that, so we'll get 77 years for walking. That's the second factor. Now, for the steps per year, I think there might be a difference between the number of steps you make Monday through Friday, a weekday, versus the number of steps you make on a weekend. So I'm separating those factors out. And then 52 weeks in a year. Well, how do I estimate the number of steps in a weekday? I'm going to guess the number of miles I walk in a day, and then multiply that by the steps in a mile. And for the weekend, similar thing, number of miles walked on a weekend day, and again, steps per mile. For the steps per mile, my estimate is I take 2 feet. I advance 2 feet on the ground, 2 feet of distance, and there are 5,280 feet in a mile, so that'll give me the number of steps in a mile. So doing that division, I get 2,640 steps per mile. And I'm not going to round too much until the very end, so we'll stick with 2,640. On a weekday, my guess is I might walk 4 miles in a day. I've got a car, so drive a lot, so 4 miles walked in a day. And if I now apply 2,640 steps per mile, I get 10,600 steps for a weekday, for a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. On the weekend, I'm not sitting around quite as much, so a little more active outside perhaps, and I'll say 6 miles on a day that's a Saturday or Sunday. So 15,800 for a Saturday or a Sunday for the steps. Now I can find the steps per year because I have the steps on a weekday, 5 weekdays, Monday through Friday, steps on a weekend, 2 weekend days, and then 52 weeks during the year. Putting all that together, a little bit of rounding here, 4.4 times 10 to the 6 steps in a year. 4.4 million steps in a year. Then as far as steps per year times years of walking, we can now do that calculation. And I get about 3.4 times 10 to the 8th steps in a year. If I move the decimal place 2 places here, make it 340 instead of 3.4, I have to reduce the power of 10 by 2, so 10 to the 6. So I have about 340 million steps in a year. That's my estimate using this first method. The second method, I'm going to guess at how many minutes I walk in a year, and then the number of steps per minute that I take. I'm going to say my walking speed is 2 miles per hour. So 2 miles per hour, there's 60 minutes in an hour. So I'm canceling out the hours units here, paying attention to that. 5,280 feet in a mile. So I'm canceling out the miles units back here. And then again, I'm guessing one of my steps covers a distance of 2 feet. So the feet units will cancel out. And I'll be left with the number of steps per minute. All the other units have canceled off. So 88 steps per minute is my average steps per minute, I'm guessing. So what about the number of minutes I spend walking? Well, my Monday through Friday days are a little different than my weekend days, so I'm going to separate those factors. And minutes on a weekday I'm going to claim is 45 minutes I spend walking on a weekday. And I'll multiply that by 5, and then 70 minutes on a weekend, multiplied by the Saturday and Sunday is 2 of those days. So I have 365 minutes spent walking doing that. So number of steps would be 365 minutes, 88 steps per minute. We're getting about 32,000 steps for this week. So let's go further. How many minutes will I walk in a lifetime? Well, I might break that down to minutes walked in a year. The previous slide had the number of minutes walked in a week. So we're going to be multiplying that number by 52 to get to the year units. And then we'll multiply by 77 years, my guess for the number of years where walking is an activity. Oh, putting all this together, and you might need to pause the video to and even back up to follow my flow here on these factors. But 45 minutes on a weekday, there are 5 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 70 minutes on a weekend, Saturday and Sunday is a factor of 2. So this would be the minutes for a week. Multiplied by 52 gets me minutes for a year. Multiplied by 77 gives me 1.46 times 10 to the 6 minutes walking during a life. 1.46 times 10 to the 6 would be 1.46 million. I'm going to be rounding later. So 88 steps per minute, we had that factor previously. So about 1.3 times 10 to the 8th steps in a lifetime. And again, if I move the decimal place twice here, make it 130 instead of 1.3, I have to reduce this to 10 to the 6th instead of 10 to the 8th. 10 to the 6th is a million. So my result here is 130 million steps in a lifetime. Well, method 1 had 340 million steps. Method 2, 130 million steps. Which is right? I don't know. Probably neither of them. And I'm just happy that they both ended in the hundreds of millions of steps in a lifetime. I did do a little internet searching. Google AI said the average steps is 216 million steps in a lifetime, and ChatGPT 191 million. So not out of range. I agree with the AI. If you'd like more of my videos on physics, astronomy, and some miscellaneous topics, there's an annotated list available at gpclements.com. gpclements.com. Everything here is free. You do not give me any information. There's no registration. You don't give me your email address. You don't give me your name. And the website does not put cookies on your computer. Everything's free. I hope that you enjoy it, and I hope you work some of your own Fermi problems.